We are live. Hello and welcome to It's Happening Show, community grassroots media for the people by the people. I'm Jose Gloria.
I'm Dylan Thompson. We are your host tonight. Indeedly do.
Yeah. It's Happening is a movement of the... I'm sorry. Uh-oh, I lost myself.
We changed the intro.
Rewind. All right. It's Happening as a movement of the heart and of the mind. It's the energy of the universe that creates waves inside us and all around us, which allows us to activate, motivate, then elevate vibrationally and intellectually towards love, truth, justice, and wisdom. It's happening in every which way.
It's Happening as a culture of empowerment. It's people own the right to exist and participate as equals. It's a dream of what the world could be, but the future we want is only possible if we make it happen. So stand up, get informed, and fight back.
Fight back.
Fight back, Jose.
You could be anywhere in the world right now, but you're here with us, so we thank you because of you. It's happening.
Oh yeah. Sorry, I totally missed it. So.
Sorry, I could just do it myself now, right?
It's distracting now because I'm kind of chatting during the show. Like I'm just
Are you on
Facebook.
AIM?
Well, there was a meme when you were
ASL
talking,
question mark?
Yeah, stuff like that, and a meme happened. And, so yeah, just carry on. Good work so far.
Carry on.
Carry on, my good man.
Yes, I shall. Yeah, speaking of all sorts of things that we've been carrying on, I've been doing is I built a puzzle. Apparently puzzles are a thing that Americans are doing a lot of.
Okay, it wasn't fun, right?
It was just like kind of stressful, and it took a long time, and it was one of those things where like if you started it, then you had to like finish it, because otherwise you've got left with an incomplete feeling in your life. So
because it matters so much to finish it. Yeah, I mean, it is weird because I was kind of thinking about it more. I mean, I've had a lot of time, right? So not only are people doing puzzles, but they're contemplating even the purpose for doing them in the first place. But it's kind of like like running up a hill. Like running a mile isn't fun, right? For most people, it's not fun, but you feel like you accomplished something.
There we go.
So the puzzle's the same thing, except you didn't do anything useful. So that's how you need to think about it.
That's right. Yeah. It was a colossal waste of time for a small amount of satisfaction and gratification. So like most things in life.
There you go. Ow!
Yeah. So I also started flying a little drone I bought for like $2, and it was all fun and games until the thing flew away. And they lost sight of it, man. It's in some roof. The kids said like, yeah, I saw a drone. Like, what was it? In the sky, it was like right there. I'm like,
so I mean,
it's not helping.
It ran away, or I mean,
I just lost. I looked away for 2 seconds and it was gone.
Well, you know,
like a balloon or a pretty bird.
If it really loved you, Jose, it'll come back, and it might bring more. You never know. I brought you more.
It might
master.
come back with friends.
Yeah. Look at the bright side.
Yeah, but I also finished The Wire, so that's a great show. We'll have to do a whole show just on the Wire breakdown.
I won't be present. It's bittersweet, right? Finishing it.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, I mean,
but any season you binge watched afterwards, you're just like, so what else do I do with my life?
It's like, all my friends.
Yeah,
my friends are gone.
Then I'm like frantically looking on Google. It's like, is there gonna be a season 7?
Yeah.
Like, tell me, please, more.
It just auto completes your request. Like, it knows you're gonna start searching for that. Google's smart.
Man, just so much stuff. I'm gonna have to skip through some of these things, but Kim Jong-un is potentially, or Kim Jong-un is potentially Kim Jong Underground. Too soon. All right. Anyway, so the man has been out of
really tired
for a couple of weeks, so that's a problem. and yeah, there are all sorts of rumors going around, and Trump doesn't like it. It's fake news, but
It's fake news. Yeah, I don't know. Didn't they say, "Oh no, he's fine"?
He's fine. I just talked to him the other day. He's doing great. Wonderful health. Like he's even writing me a little note. He told me.
On his little letter. Secret for me.
Yeah, but and also like crazy in the news, the New York has canceled its primary. So yeah, it's
Bernie still has a chance though, and here is the new strategy. Okay, I'm just kidding, but
they could have just gave them all vote by mail ballots and allowed it to be done, in a way that still allow for the process to go on. But they're like, nope, we're canceling it. It's like, okay, so that's a lot of people in the progressive movement were very upset with that.
So what does that mean as far as how are the delegates allocated?
That's going to be a good question. Like, I'm sure it's going to come up at the convention, right? What is that? Is that allowed? What kind of precedent could it set? Even setting a precedent for Donald Trump to could potentially even cancel some in some states that like New York, that perhaps wouldn't go to him. Like it's potentially problematic, to say the least. Speaking of problematic, sorry,
moving it along.
Ceci and Angie, Cecilia Iglesias, who's on the show the other day, and Angie Cano, who was not on the show but was on the Connect to Council show that you, good sir, were part of, along with the Sylviest, providing that service to the community. And man, it was testy and feisty, and there was a lot of people watching it.
That's good.
The yes and on the recall thing. And anyways, great job, guys.
Woo! Do better next time.
Yeah. B+.
Minimal. That was my goal. We met the minimum achieved. As far as any security problems, I think actually the URL to join the meeting did flash on the screen at some point, so it could have been one of those Zoom bomb things where someone comes on it. Luckily that we avoided that. So
yeah. So, but no,
courtesy of Connect to Council. Go ahead.
they got caught in this video that was shared by peoples, saying that they were taking down some yes on the recall signs, at least, and allegedly. Angie Cano was on there, and I think she's come out and said that was a couple weeks ago, so it's not that bad, guys. Nothing to see here. It's like happened a while ago. It's
the crime happened.
Potentially illegal. So that there will be more to be said on that.
Definitely like to hear more about that. I mean, they do go rogue, kind of. So,
who was that man that was with that perpetrator, or allegedly. My favorite word. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, it's there's more to be said on so much.
Rama.
But yeah, I and the last quick story, which shoot them all. Tyson Farms is closing down, and that could hurt supply line. So we're in trouble, America, if we can't have our sausage links and patties and chicken and yeah. What is America gonna do?
I need my processed meats. Well, we need to cut back anyway, right? It's amazing how much people can restrain themselves in the crisis. So we may have to start getting your complete proteins from combinations of vegetables, everybody.
That's
some
right.
Grains and lentils.
Lentils.
Lentils. Yeah. Need to incorporate it.
And you know what? Cockroaches, not cockroaches. Crickets.
Well, if you're feeling
great source of protein. Apparently, my people, Mayans, Aztecs, those are very much part of a healthy diet, along with those cute little hairless dogs, the Cholo skinklets. Sorry, Cholo. It's a holiday. We all got to be sacrificed at some point. This is what. Anywho.
Yeah, but. This is something. I mean, I can't say much because I kind of just bought a bunch of meat and froze it. So
Uh-oh. Was it
Yeah,
was it
it
was it
was halal, and thank you
halal?
for asking.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's okay.
So,
Not all meat is the same.
that's true. That's true. I did go to Costco, which
Wow.
was okay. Okay, it was actually okay.
It was actually okay.
It didn't get crazy. Actually, no one was there, so
Okay.
no complaints.
Speaking of somewhere where no one was not there, and going into news segment of top story of
New
news
segment.
segment, top stories, coronavirus news, Orange County beaches. Man, oh man, Orange County, have we lived up to our stay classy Orange County, a la Gustavo Arellano, OC Weekly. Ode to all those good stories that we talked about it. So anti-stay-home protests are growing in Orange County as coronavirus continues spreading. So this is updated to April 24th. Orange County protests railing against Governor Gavin Newsom's stay-at-home orders are increasing, becoming part of a large statewide effort to reopen the economy, despite the continued spread of the novel coronavirus. People protested the orders Friday afternoon in Santa Ana, and there's another protest slated that happened on this today in Orange. There's also protests scheduled at Huntington Beach and Laguna Beach on May 1st, part of a series of demonstrations throughout the state that day. Meanwhile, the virus has killed 36 people out of 1,800 confirmed cases, according to the counts. So this is according to the Voice of OC article. But yeah, the sheriff spokeswoman for Orange County Sheriff's Carrie Braun said the deputies are approaching the protest with a light hand. Yes, so people are protesting, and they're also protesting these, like the governor's call because he's a socialist. That commie.
Socialism distancing.
Commie.
Yeah,
it's a stretch, but anything that's bad with the world, when in doubt, call it socialism or call people commies. But yeah, people were out in droves in Orange County, man, in the beaches, and
we'll see what that does to our numbers. I mean, actually, I was just checking today, and it seems that the United States has 1 million out of the 3 million cases. So we're like way, way, way at number one. Like, good job, United States.
Woo,
but the next one down's like Spain and Italy in the hundreds of thousands, like 200,000 to 300,000. We have 1 million cases. So yeah, I mean, who knows? This thing has probably been going on for a month before it became a problem too. Like, I mean, I actually knew of a lot of people who were like very ill before it was declared. You know what I'm saying? Like a month or so before. So, and considering how little we test, like we pretty much wouldn't know, right? So it is weird looking at like how many infections we have to the need to restore order or like normalcy already. It's like, I don't know, does like the number one position in the infections, and I mean, I know it's not like per capita, it's not the highest, but it's among the highest per capita like infections, right? It's like per 1 million people.
Orange County is?
No, not Orange County, the United States.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, why are we so like just dismissive?
Yeah, I mean, it's all sorts of crazy town where cultism then allows you to just completely deny science, and at this point, it's just become intertwined with all of this conspiracy type stuff that we'll get into with our guest in a bit, Scott Celtic Knott. But there's just a lot of different ideas floating around about who it was.
Yeah. So I just want to add this one thing about the conservative people who are like, oh, these like liberal Democrat socialists, like ruining everything, like the globalist takeover. Like some people are just saying like, oh, the globalists made a coronavirus so they could do X goal that's against us. It's like, A, prove it, but B, I mean, look, like multinational corporations are going to like gain immensely during this time. They may not have caused, there may be no evidence that they caused the problem, as some conspiracies say, but certainly they'll benefit from it, right? And we already talked about how much money, free lending, like the biggest multinationals will receive during this time, and how, look, if they get more benefit or help than small business, guess who's going out of business, and guess who's buying up their real estate, and guess who, like, the wealth has shifted again toward the people who already own everything, and now no one can own a house, no one owns their business, everyone's renting, and that's the future.
Yeah, and it is a scary future, truly, because the crisis that we're dealing with now, crisis of not being able to enjoy the summer and our awesome beaches and our awesome freedom and liberate yourselves. But with great freedom comes great responsibility, and as a society, we need to be more collectively um, um, cognizant of the impact that we can have on each other, especially in this moment. So, but then when it's going to happen after this crisis subsides, well, the economic crisis that is will surely be coming, and the vulture capitalists are going to just take advantage of it, just like they do in any kind of crisis and situation that they can.
Yeah,
It's
too true.
yeah, it's ingrained in the whole setup of
Yeah,
things.
yeah, that's a standard play in the playbook.
All right, so let's go on to our next top story.
Even more coronavirus news, because like for the foreseeable future, I mean, top news. Why be so vague? I mean, we're really just talking about coronavirus. So I want to talk a little bit about coronavirus abroad in a couple different countries, like just to contrast with what we're seeing. Like, for instance, New Zealand, I think just recently proclaimed that, I think it was just today, they said they've eliminated the threat because for several days they're reporting single figures. I think they've actually ended their toughest restrictions for social distancing, and have started, like, some non-essential businesses will resume tomorrow. So, I mean, of course, I mean, I like to look at all the variables here. I mean, it's probably less dense, less population, less movement of people between places. I don't know. There's a million ways you can analyze this, but um, some smaller countries are saying they've essentially eliminated the threat. And so, I mean, I just want people to see that as, like, I think they did use the social distancing strategy that a lot of countries are using. So let's look at this and compare to, like, Denmark. And hopefully we don't have to wait till it's too late to choose the right policy. But and then just with regard to what are we going to do about, like, workers, small businesses, like what I was just talking about? Like, are they getting enough support? Well, in Japan, the Japanese government is going to subsidize 100% of salaries for small companies, and this basically is done by expanding an existing program that would have caused the company to lay off their employees without any choice. Except it'll expand the coverage to 100% of the salaries, and it's basically qualifies any, like, service sector company that has 5 employees or a manufacturing company of 20. So that's going to cover, I think this is saying 3 million companies and 10 million employees qualify for this. I think this sounds like a great program, right? We need to support these small businesses and just ordinary workers, right? And not just let's give giant bailouts to multinationals that are just giving their executives all the benefit. The problem here, the implementation is a problem apparently in Japan, because there's a long wait period and there's complicated paperwork to get this support. So that's the implementation challenge. But I'd like to see a lot more frickin' programs that actually help working people, and because every bill they've passed so far is just a bailout for the rich.
Yeah, it has been really challenging the way that this government has dealt with the crisis as opposed to other governments. It it's important to uplift the fact that these are by and large socialist countries, small countries compared to the United States. Um, but yeah, it allows for us to see what could be done in this country if some real type of collective policies, or policies that address a collective kind of addressing of the need for Medicare for all, universal health care, and universal housing, and just the need to be able to survive, and not have to be put in jail if you don't have enough to pay the rent, or to to survive, especially in this moment. But yeah, corporations are, of course, just using this a moment for them to you know potentially do buybacks and do everything that they can to increase their wealth. But I will say that in the case of Switzerland, it is great news. But Switzerland also has very strict laws on immigration. So people that live in Switzerland are staying tight for the most part, and they're not allowing a lot of people in, like United States and other countries in the European Union. So that is, but all to say that social distancing is done right, while limiting, the flow of people from countries that potentially have higher levels of disease, is of a factor that allows people to wipe it out, and we will get there one day. Not nearly anytime soon as Switzerland, unfortunately, but I don't know, early next year.
Yeah, have they banned some travel yet? Or I mean, that is interesting that I haven't heard much about travel policy changing. But I know personally, a lot of people have canceled all their traveling plans. I mean, right? A lot of the airlines they're not having anyone fly. But more to say on that.
No doubt.
Later.
Next story. Trump advises Lysol injections. Yeah, that was a story. Won't spend too much time on it because a lot of has been said about this already. But what's the best thing that's been said about this? All the damn memes. I don't know if Mr. Silva, you can share some memes that might be scattered out there in the Ethernet. But yeah, if we can't, then definitely look them up because they are great out there. According to NBC News, manufacturer of Lysol, a disinfectant spray and cleaning product, issued a statement warning against any internal use after President Donald Trump suggested that people could get an injection of the disinfectant that knocks coronavirus out in a minute. As a global leader and a health hygiene in health and hygiene products, we must be clear that under no circumstance should our disinfectant products be administered into the human body via injection, ingestion, or any other route. Yeah. So that leaves it, open area for edemas. Like, hey,
you know.
So a spokesperson for Reckitt Beckensire, the United Kingdom-based owner of Lysol, said in a statement to NBC News. So that was said on Thursday. It's Monday.
It's amazing.
We're still talking about the stupidity behind it.
That has to be a career highlight for whoever made that quote. Yeah, I just actually had to say that you shouldn't listen to the president on that.
Yeah, no, it's stupid too, because like some real life consequences came out of that.
Oh yeah, no, people did poison themselves.
No, people literally, I believe in the state of New York or New Jersey, had an uptick of people either calling in, asking questions, or to like like poison centers, or saying like I just drank some Clorox. What and I don't feel very good. What can I do about this? Like, people literally, it's just like, it reminds me of the Tide Pod situation. That's stupid, people. In that case, it was like, okay, well, this is fun. Yeah. We don't know that that's gonna like do anything good for you. But in this case, the president of the United States said that this could potentially help, and what do you got to lose type of mentality. Yeah. He's just going.
It's kind of
press conferences.
Yeah, I mean, I know everyone's been saying idiocracy since day one of Trump presidency, but I mean, isn't this kind of like watering the crops of Mountain Dew or whatever they were doing? It's like it's very close. It's getting very, very close to idiocracy happening. But yes, as many people have pointed out,
truth is stranger than fiction. And our last story before our
Indeed.
guest tonight.
Speaking of strangeness, apparently after some cats have tested positive for coronavirus, the CDC says social distancing applies to pets too. So luckily my cat does seek a lot of distance already, so it's not not too much of a problem. But yeah, now what am I supposed to do? Like put a mask on my cat? Or I mean, what's happening here? And
no, he's got to be quarantined like you and everybody else. Like, but that's hard because, like, as I mentioned before, cats run these streets of Santana.
Yeah,
they took over at some point.
Yeah, that's going to be the challenge if you have an outdoor cat or outdoor indoor.
Got, spraying to get done, emails to like holler at, freaking cats to catch. I mean, mice to catch. Like, birds to slaughter. Like there's cat things that cats got to do.
Oh yeah.
So that is going to be a problem.
It can't be done at a distance. But there was another random cat story. So logically, those go together, right? So apparently, a Vallejo planning commissioner had to resign after, and I guess this kind of ties into like everyone lives on Zoom now, or I mean, at least I do. And so people are getting used to like, what are the correct behaviors on Zoom? Like, what is Zoom etiquette? What's the decorum? What's the proper way to act and behave and stuff? But I think this planning commissioner was frustrated with his cat meowing during the meeting and picked it up and said, like, meet my cat, and threw it like that. And yeah, and it's like, I mean, your weird dark sense of humor about your cat, I mean, I'm sure the cat was okay, but that's not a proper way to treat an animal. You should never intentionally hurt your pet like that, right? And yeah, it's such a joke, you're strong, they're helpless. But yeah, he resigned, and it's just like, maybe in the moment he just thought it was a harmless thing, he was frustrated. But I mean, Zoom etiquette 101 here. Okay.
Yes. Do not go to the restroom while on a Zoom conference call on your cell phone. And do not put pants on, because you never know like where the camera will go.
Yeah, this should be a do and don't kind of list. Do, and then it shows you like,
yeah. Do not throw your cat like a crazy like sadist. It reminds me of that the Netflix documentary, Don't Fuck with Cats.
I still gotta see it.
That CEO's got some people coming for him for real, because it's a good one. And a local Santana person allegedly could be said that is on that in that documentary.
They speak in it.
No, he's the dude that's like chasing after like the cat killer, and he's a detective.
Oh, yeah. Damn.
True story. Yeah, so everybody watch Netflix.
Go watch that, and then in the comments,
see who John Green is, and tell me who you think that is.
Yeah, tell us who John Green is in the comments.
Who is John Green?
Speaking of who is,
our next guest, our awesome longtime friend, been on the show many a times early in our career. He is all sorts of things. Walking encyclopedia, as I've called him many a times. He is Scott Celtic Knott. Scott Celtic Knott is a deep green survivalist, permaculturist, Celtic tribal revivalist, homegrown egg layer, bloodthirsty goat slayer, dope rhyme stayer, decolonizer, pandemic survivor, and information.
They go to great lengths to make their laws green, and they should use their own God-given urine because it's cheaper. I started with the tingle, graduated with Deagle. Now I got more urine crystals than a crystal cathedral. I've hit with the liquid to 66 people. Tell these illiterate minute and tore off the sprinkles. I'm either a genius or an extinct. It's the urine diversion, because we divert the urine, and it's a diversion. Scott Celtic, 9 parts water, 1 part urine. For watering the plants, that's perfect.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Colonial homeowners.
Dude, like, I wanted to get another puzzle, but one, they're expensive. I have no idea how expensive puzzles are. And two, they take like a month to get here. I'm like, I'm not gonna want to do a puzzle by the end of like May or like late June. Like we might be like out of this stuff, right? Like it'll become obsolete.
I just saw
like
that this
Zoom
was
conference meetings.
Yeah. Speaking of puzzles, here's the next one I'm trying to do. I don't know if you want to. Do you want to give that a shot?
What is that?
That's it. It's called White Heaven.
Scott, do you have anything to say about that?
I'm not gonna yuck your yum. That's what you like. Great. There's worse things you could be doing.
I'm not committing any crimes.
Like going to Orange County beaches in the middle of an pandemic.
Yeah.
What do you think about that, Scott? Is that okay? Was that okay for them to do? Are they really liberating themselves against the fascist, socialist, commie Gavin Newsom regime? Is Gavin Newsom a commie? Question number 1. Yes or no? Lightning round.
Kind of sounds like a trick question. Yeah, I've been reading the news articles and stuff, and like reading their signs and stuff, and it doesn't seem like they have like a super coherent message.
You're the Pharisee man.
It's a no. I had a trip this summer. I bought up my plane ticket and everything. I was gonna go visit the Celtic lands through July and August, but my trip got canceled. So I'm gonna try and do it next summer. And so I've just been staying home, and I got plenty of stuff to do.
Got some books to read.
Yeah,
you got plenty of books to read.
Epic library behind you.
Have
you read? Yeah. What percentage of the books behind you have you read, Scott?
Probably half of them.
Okay, that's solid.
And I got more in the other room, of course. This isn't the totality of books that I own, but
it's way more.
I know people who take books and put them in trash cans. They just throw the books away. They're like, "What is this? Garbage?" And they just send it to the landfill.
I don't get it. What is all this? Yeah.
I'll be honest. Like I've moved, I've moved around a lot and carried books from place to place. Then every now and then I go through my books. I'm like, either I'm not gonna read it or this is not my style of books. But I feel always terrible about like throwing books away. So I try not.
You should feel terrible. Friends in the library, Goodwill.
But Goodwill's terrible. They are an evil corporation or nonprofit that their CEO makes $1 million and they sell jeans that are used for like $10-12, bro.
But they don't put books in the garbage.
Oh,
that's true. But look. I ran a book fair like a month or two ago, and I looked at some of these books, and I'm just wondering, like, A, who wrote it, and B, who's gonna read this? And I was wondering, like, the one person that would read it. I'm like, is it worth trying to connect to these people? Like, just, I don't know. There are some books you just wonder.
Yeah. No, I definitely wonder, and there's just new books. There's more books every day. They're just cranking them out. Some of this stuff is, like, so obscure. And, it's like, why? Just because it's a book doesn't mean that it's automatically good. But it's knowledge, it's a tool. It shouldn't go in the garbage. If anything, donate it to the library or I like those little leave a book, take a book, little birdhouse boxes. They're around Santa Ana, they're around Orange County. Just put them in there. A lot of schools have them.
Okay, you offered a lot of good examples of places where they can be left.
Next time.
But you know what? In the new world, COVID-19, post COVID-19, like these, like take a book, give a book things, maybe not safe anymore, not so safe anymore, right? So maybe this could be part of what makes books obsolete. It's like, oh well, why get a book that could have a virus on it from the last user when I could just download it onto my iPhone or whatever Kindle.
You know what? did you deliberately just summarize the plot of Kirk Cameron's Left Behind Part 3 right now?
Maybe.
Okay, spoiler alert. So the Antichrist like sprays Bibles with viruses, and so the Christians like in the end times spread the Bibles around the world, but they're actually spreading the disease. The spores can like live inside the dried paper pages. And
yeah.
that's
Anything? Yeah, that's weird. I feel like that metaphor is too on the nose, like the virus on the Bible thing. Anyway.
Well, this leads me, I guess, to like what you know, what I definitely want to talk to you about, right? And this is the, you know, as your introduction shares, you've in a lot of ways been doing the work individually to prepare yourself to be as self-sustainable as possible. You know, with like, you know, having a farm and, you know, having your own chickens and being able to, you know, even butcher your own livestock and all the skill set that is needed to be able to do all those things. That for thousands of years, people had those skills because those are the skills you needed to stay alive. If you didn't have that, you would die. But you know, obviously, in this modern, modern society, a lot of people don't have those skill sets anymore. So if you, like we mentioned earlier, Tyson Farms can't, you know, give you processed meat as you've become accustomed to, like what then can you do? So you know, and with that too, just your own way of approaching survivalism, or you know, the politics perhaps behind you know, trying to do something that fights back against corporations and the corporate overtake of our food systems, of our education system, and so on. But also like, you know, just the the need to decipher truth from fiction. And right now, as you know, Scott, there's a lot of conspiracy theories going around, and there's a lot of fear, and there's a lot of people talking about 5G, and it's a Russian conspiracy, and a, you know, and a communist conspiracy from the Chinese, and I mean the list goes on, man. This is crazy, like the amount of conspiracies that are out there, and people are believing these things. So I guess, you know, just having said all that, like what is this for real? Like is this COVID-19 thing for real? Should people be scared about it, and who created it?
All right. I mean, there's only a handful of like insects that are really like tasty. Like you were mentioning the chapulín, you know.
Yeah.
That's good. But you got to get a bunch of them. They're like pretty small. A lot of insects are like bitter. That's like their defense mechanism. And the texture is kind of off. And, anyways, what I prefer to do is I have some feathered allies. So I let my chickens out. They eat the bugs. Then they synthesize the protein into eggs.
Snap. Who let the chickens out? Scott. All right, that's enough.
So this is like, you know, this is like the best eggs ever. This is all, I laid them myself.
You did not sit there and lay them yourself, Scott.
I laid them right into this little container.
Hey-o.
I didn't mean it like they came out of my body. I didn't mean it like that.
Okay.
Come on.
All right.
Yeah, Scott, don't try to take credit for the
Get a little literal.
No, it was a joint. It was a collaboration.
You have a joint?
It was a joint effort.
Oh, okay.
So I helped, you know, protect them from raccoons and coyotes and whatnot. And then I help show them, you know, I go out and there's like logs. I'll turn over a log and the chickens will rush in and eat all the bugs under the log. You know, there's like pincher bugs and like roly-polies and, you know, in an emergency, I guess you could eat those, but not my favorite. This is one of my favorites right here.
Yeah. It's high cholesterol though. That is one setback from that. But it is also carbon free, or mostly, right?
I mean, it's super local. I mean, it would be harder to get a more carbon neutral product.
Guess it depends what you feed the chicken, right?
Yeah. I do buy chicken feed for them, but I try and get as much, like leftovers. They'll eat most human leftovers. They can eat chile. They don't eat chocolate though. They're like dogs. So don't give them mole or like chocolate. It's what is it? Thorazine is the thing that's toxic for them. They eat pretty much everything else that humans eat. And
yeah, but a lot of counties or cities have laws against having chickens, or definitely male chickens, right? They don't want them to be like,
oh yeah, the
cock-a-doodle
roosters.
drooling.
Yeah, they're against roosters. And then Santana had this controversial new ordinance. I think it was maybe like almost 10 years ago, where they limited the number of hens you could have.
And you can still have them now in Santa Ana, right?
Yeah, but there are like you have to have so much like square feet on the property, and they have to be like a certain distance from the neighboring property. And there's all these dimensions. So the majority of the residents in the city aren't going to be able to do it under those restrictions. Fortunately, I think Santana probably has like some of the more, they're a little bit more less aggressive with enforcement. You don't have the same enforcement culture as you do in like a lot of these like South County neighborhoods and like HOAs and stuff.
Yeah,
where they're just like super aggressive.
Yeah, and that isn't. Do you think that's part of why people perhaps become so attached to, the industrial meat industry, because they're not able to have their own livestock, or chickens and whatnot? Or
of course, I just finished this book this week. Actually, I got the whole book at the OC Public Library. And so there's all these audiobooks I've just been listening to a lot. And it's called, what's it called? The Life of Black Elk. And it's about how the US government took a bunch of self-sufficient indigenous people and then put them on reservations and said, well, you can't leave to hunt where you've hunted for thousands of years, and you can't collect other wild foods, but we'll give you these handouts. And then the handouts were like terrible quality. And and then like as soon as they basically took away the good hunting grounds and the best farming land and ranch land, they just said, well, we don't really feel like giving you these handouts anymore, these rations anymore. And then, that's just been the story of, it's literally genocide. You got a lot of peoples where within one generation, their population is reduced by like 60%, just from being stripped from their food source.
Yeah, like some other way of life, some other way of providing for themselves is imposed on them. And maybe they become dependent, right, in that situation, instead of being able to provide for themselves, right?
Yeah, that's probably the most dramatic example of what's going on, of what happens. That's the heartland of America. That's central to the American story, the genocide and forced dependency. And we're here in the city, and we're really, it's the same thing in essence. It's just maybe not as extreme. It's not as intense, but the same disempowerment, the same relationships, the same essence is here. And that's why. And if we don't have alternatives, of course, we got to depend on something else.
Right? Yeah. It is a challenge though in living in urban environment to continue to try to have the things that people that would live in rural America can still do and do still do, but more and more just as a whole, people are, I think it is part of a cultural shift beyond that. Like even if people are leaving the farms because they don't want to live that lifestyle. You know, the next generation of young people, they don't want to be farmers like their parents. And so then less and less individual farmers are thriving because of many reasons, including the subsidization of big agriculture. But it still leaves the questions like, as more and more people, the population goes into these urban environments, less and less people are able to really even realistically live off the grid or sustainably without having to depend on the corporations to feed them and give them energy and all these things.
Yeah, I mean, ideally, we would have a social net, and we would have, bailout packages for everybody, for the working class, for small businesses. Ideally, we would have a medical care system where everyone gets medical care and all these things. I'm very skeptical, to say the least. Obviously, I'm here. I got internet, electricity, and everything. But I got a plan B too.
Oh, yeah, let's go into that. Let's go into that a bit. Let's say day one. Yeah, go ahead.
I know you. I threw a lot at you early on, but I really do want to know what you think about this COVID-19, because we mentioned before the show, we were talking like, you're not a conspiracy theorist. Or consider yourself one. I personally would say that I do, just based on like what the definition is, but based from everything that I've been hearing recently with the flat earth theorists and and now with this 5G that even Woody Harrelson retweeted about. But before that flat earth theory, we had Shaquille O'Neal and all these people like saying like, yeah, flat earth, like this is stupid. So you don't even know what is real and what isn't real in this era of fake news, man. So how do you decipher from it? Like, and how much of this COVID-19 do you really believe in? How much of it are you like concerned or about?
I mean, these conspiracy theories, quote unquote, whatever that means, they're these narratives that are completely unhinged. And there's just really no way to verify or falsify some of these outrageous claims, and like standards for evidence and evaluation of reality. Again, it's just so detached from reality. So I can't even, it's really hard to even like respond to these stories because they're so incoherent.
So you don't believe them?
Well, I don't even know what you're asking me that I believe in or not. It just is like a jumble of incoherent mutterings.
Do you believe that 5G is the reason why coronavirus is spreading?
Extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and I don't have any evidence for that. I don't. I do read a lot of history, and I know about smallpox, and you read like the journals of like Christopher Columbus, Hernan Cortez, all these guys. I've read their diaries and stuff, and they talk about all the diseases. Bartolomé de las Casas. You read the Puritans, the Pilgrims back in the 1600s and stuff, and then they talk about the diseases. And then in several cases, it was documented that the diseases were deliberately used as a weapon to wipe out populations. In other cases, we don't know. There's kind of like indirect evidence. In some cases, it was probably just accidental, a happy accident, depending on your point of view. But most of the indigenous peoples of North and South America died from disease within one generation of contact. It's like 95% of the people died of disease. You had like Mexico City. It was, in terms of population, larger than any city in Europe at that time. And then you have like a 90% population reduction from these diseases. And then you look at, that's probably like one of the most extreme examples. We know that this stuff happens. You could look at like the Spanish influenza. That's like a common example a lot of people are citing. You look at all these so-called primitive peoples that haven't really been, in contact with explorers mostly European explorers. We have lots of records. The Europeans, you know, like the English explorers, conquerors, whatever, they go to some Pacific island and then everybody gets sick. And then you have massive die-offs and stuff. And,
right.
I
So
mean,
that stuff
is
real.
real. So this hasn't really happened before in our lifetimes. But if you talk to like a biologist, an epidemiologist, they're really not surprised. If you talk to historians, they're really not surprised that this is happening. It's remarkable that it's happening to us and we're living through it, and it is a big deal. But if you really understand biology and how this stuff works, it's not really like it doesn't seem like it's like I'm not in denial. I don't deny that
Bill Gates did not create this virus. This is just like was bound to happen.
I can't prove a negative. Like if we're going to use standards of like science, like I can't like disprove that. There's, according to the standards of scientific evaluation of a claim of truth, which is what I tend to use. It seems very improbable to me.
Right, that's what I think.
So I mean, yeah,
Dylan, are you yeah, Bill Gates fabricated this.
Well, I mean,
elitist class takeover. Hey,
I mean, dude, I'm on the same page with Scott. I mean, evidence warrants belief. So, like, before you have it, I'm not willing to commit to anything. I'm willing to be suspicious or to speculate, but I'm not committing to that as a fact or a belief that I have, right? But yeah, I mean, so I guess one thing I want to bring up to Scott is this, like, take for instance, like say QAnon, like they're a conspiracy theory that believes that some like globalist corporate new world order has seized control of the government, and apparently Trump and like the FBI and some like CIA are going to liberate people. So I mean, you look at this and I mean, obviously there's a lot wrong with the analysis, but part of it is right in that, like, people do have a sense that they're not in control, like powers outside of them actually move all the pawns around. And I think a lot of people kind of, I mean, if you look at a leftist analysis of our politics, that's obviously what's happening. It's saying like the ruling class has seized the government, but they're not describing it in the way that QAnon is. So I guess like,
well, we have evidence.
Yeah,
like we could go to Wall Street and then go investigate what's going on. There's all these crimes, and it's documented, and the criminals are not denying that that's what they're doing. And we look at the like global bankers and stuff, and like austerity measures in the third world, the developing world. We look at coups to privatize resources. We look at you know how it's basically like a colonialism, imperialism, but it's a more modern form, like extracting raw materials from poor, keeping poor countries poor, backing up brutal, corrupt regimes to continue that. That's not a conspiracy theory. That's like they're openly doing these crimes. You've got like Duterte in the Philippines. He's giving press conferences where he's openly bragging about he's committing atrocities and bragging about his abuse of power and stuff. And so, I mean, if you claim that it's just one person or one like secret club that's pulling all the strings, I guess that's easier to digest. It's you tell yourself that story. It's easier to understand. Like a 5-year-old could understand the plot. Real life's a little bit more complex, but yeah, the you know, small businesses have been under attack since the 1970s. The standard of living has gone down. You know, people used to like I saw this meme about the Ted Bundy show that came out on Netflix. I never actually saw the show, but in the meme said, the thing that was most surprising about the Ted Bundy documentary is that in the early 1970s, you could work at a gas station and own your own home.
Oh shoot.
And yeah, like my parents' generation, you could just work 40 hours a week as like a cashier or something, and then you could have like a decent living. That was the expectation. So what has happened to that?
Well, no, we still have that. Oh, wait, no, but it comes with the lifelong, like student loan debt, credit card debt, or a mortgage payment. That the interest payments end up being more than the value, like the value of the property. So
we have winners and losers from these deals. We can measure this using math. It's not like a secret thing. Economists study this. Just you could go, read economics books. You could get a degree in economics. It's not this like secret thing that is impossible to understand. It might be a little dry. It might be a little complex. But if you really wanted to know what's going on in reality, it might take a little bit of work to kind of investigate and figure out. And then, the more work you put in, probably the more realistic picture you're going to get.
Oh, Scott, that sounds like a whole lot of work. I just want to like get my information from the headlines of articles and from dank memes. And, and I just really want to feel like the government is coming down on me with, the elite class and all of these people. And that's the problem with me, right? Like, or with, I guess, a lot of what's happening now. It's like things that are coming out that people that perhaps on the left were saying are really coming to be a mainstream kind of belief. The thing about mainstream media and how it lies to us, like, that was a leftist talking point, and then Trump took it, and then so did the right. Like a lot of the things that when it comes to the deep state, again, leftist stuff, even Alex Jones before he went crazy, like, was talking about these things in a very coherent, way, because he was actually exposing George Bush and the things that they were doing and the things that they have been doing. So like, I think you're absolutely right. There's conspiracy theories, and then there's these conspiracies, like, which by definition, and I know that the definition of conspiracy, like this is in fact what's happening. It's a worldwide conspiracy to make as much money as possible, to devalue human life, and if nothing more, to use human life as one would use cattle, to be able to drive up profits and destroy the planet all the while. And it's really to come to that realization is really devastating for me. But for you, I think you've perhaps come to a similar, conclusion about like the powers that be. But you've chosen to take a very practical approach, which is, why I guess we were talking about the permaculturalist aspect of your life and how you've chosen to act through your understanding about this. Like, okay, these conspiracies are true. Now what? What do we do? The game is rigged. Electoral politics is not working for us. Now what? Right? But that's something I've admired a lot, that you've been able to really take that. And so, I mean, what do you think more people are going to join your cause to be more practicalist and in their way of approaching these theories that are coming out? Or do you just see more of a fear, panic, and cultism, because of the society, and the media and the TV and what it tells us?
Number one, that's a false dichotomy. Number two, I'm not going to speculate about future events. Number three, I'm especially not going to speculate about the future actions of other people that I don't have any control over.
There are some people that are choosing to tune out, tap out, and go back to survivalist kind of, the tactics.
Yeah,
and there's people that are like not. That is the dichotomy. And
well, I mean, I hope people get closer to the land and reclaim the relationship to the planet. And even the most technological stuff that we have, Zoom, internet, whatever, it's all built up on the earth and the services that the earth provides. And as biological beings, we still need clean water and all the stuff that goes in to the biology of life on the planet. We can't transcend that. And I think the more skills that we have, maybe even if you're not like a subsistence farmer or something, really in the global economic system, subsistence farmers are some of the most exploited and poorest people. They have some of the most miserable lives on the planet. So that's not an alternative to try and you know, do that, or compete with other subsistence farmers that are like you know, using chemicals and GMOs and stuff. It's a losing game. You know, there is a movement definitely for what I would call survivalism, but not in the sense of like weaponry or like, you know, if for survival, like what kind of organizing skills do you have? How good are you at communicating? How many languages can you speak? Do you know how to facilitate a meeting? Do you know how to build a coalition? Do you know how to provide interpretation of a large scale meeting? Do you know how to you know, take notes? How do you construct agreements? How do you enforce and maintain agreements? How does a community own property in common? How is that property defended? How is it managed? How is it maintained? All those things don't happen on their own. It's been taken away from us through colonization. You know, even we think of like Great Britain and like England. You know, like 200 years ago, most of England, a lot of the land there was like commons, and you know, the enclosure movement was still something kind of like recent. There was like a lot of stuff. I'm reading this book right now about the Luddite movement, and that's like in the 1800s. That wasn't that long ago, where you had guerrillas in the Sherwood Forest fighting against the English army to try and stop what they saw coming.
What were they destroying? Was it?
Yeah, they were destroying looms. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't that they were against technology per se, they were against the social consequences of the new technology. And they made demands, and there were, you know, they made communiques. They had a pretty surprisingly coherent analysis of what was going on at the time. And it was a death sentence to destroy these looms. And a lot of these other, like destroying property was a death sentence, or you could get, they called it transported. Like there were Luddites who were deported or transported to Australia, and then they died of disease on the boat to Australia. I mean, we know diseases kill people. A lot of people, you know, here people were put on reservations and subjected to disease. You've got Ricardo Flores Magón, who died of, well, there's differing reports, but they claim like pneumonia or something. He was basically, you know, put in a freezing cell in the winter in Kansas, and then he got sick, and he obviously didn't have the same care as you know, someone else. He prematurely died from disease it was kind of a calculated thing.
Yeah.
Right.
And just going back to the Luddite thing really quick, the conflict, it wasn't that they just hated technology. Was it going to shift a power balance between the workers and the people who owned the looms?
Yeah, so the weavers, most of the people were employed weaving, and they had their own home looms. So it's basically like a wooden thing, and then they would go through and like by hand weave the thread through with the wool, and then they would get there were sheep all over the place, and so it was like local like wool producers for the most part, and then they would sell their product, and then they had guilds and stuff, and they would negotiate their prices. But now you have this growing British Empire, this growing market, and then you had these first looms, and there were these huge looms, and you had to have like 12 people or something operated at the same time. So before, you would have like a lot of people would watch their kids at home, and they would be on the loom with the kids, like doing both at the same time.
Yeah.
And whenever they had to take a break, they could just take a break. Now you have to have 12 people all doing the same repetitive motion at the same time. So you got to have someone coordinating that, who's going to be like the factory owner. And then, like, if one person has to take a bathroom break, now like you have to stop. And then, so now they start getting like more and more severe. And then, you know, literally like whipping and like beating people. And a lot of them were children that had to do this repetitive motion, robbed of their childhood because they had small hands and they could just repetitively do this fabric. And so those were the new looms. They were more efficient, but at what cost to the actual workers? And then all the small workers got driven out of business.
Yeah,
so that was, people were literally starving to death. This is 19th century England, supposedly like one of the #1 kick-ass countries taking over the world, and their own citizens are starving to death because, you know, they were basically sacrificed for the economy.
Yeah,
it was the same kind of thinking that we're seeing today. And so they destroyed those huge looms that could only be operated in a way that was extremely harmful in the short term to the workers who were almost enslaved, who were abused doing the labor. And then almost immediately, it was causing starvation to the masses of people.
Yeah, I think one of, like you laid out perfectly, one of the challenges with you know, the industrialization and, you know, the Industrial Revolution. That's one case of many times, I'm sure, where technology was able to be used by the bosses to smash on individualism and have it be a more a dependent and enslaved you know, population of people that had to, you know, do these kinds of assembly line type of, you know, big industry type things in order to crank out more product for the bosses, but at the expense, as you mentioned, of the individuals in the community and their ability to economically be sustainable and also be there for their kids, so on. And that's something that's just been the process of technology within the capitalist system. You know, capitalism makes you want to maximize profit at the expense of its workers. So, and whether it's been feudalism in the past or whatever, it does seem like technology has been a gift and a curse to mankind, which is what I would like to transition, I guess, into the one thing that I also wanted to talk to you about. So many things I want to talk to you about, and we could just do a show just on every aspect of what you've mentioned pretty much. But this new film that came out by Michael Moore, well, he was a executive producer, and it was another fellow that was a director, and it's called Planet of the Humans. And a lot of talk has been coming out about that that documentary. It's free on YouTube for anybody that wants to check it out. But it does a big part to it. I mean, and this is a long line of Michael Moore's films exposing the systems and exposing healthcare and exposing, you know, food industry and so on. So this is not new, but it was new or controversial in the sense that it was attacking some of the left champions of the environmental movement and saying that basically their technologies are not helping to address the problems of our of the need for energy, sustainability, and renewable energy. So I'd love to hear your thoughts about what you thought about the film and you know, just in general about the industry of environmental, as we're trying to address the big crisis that's coming our way, not COVID-19, but climate change and you know, the effects of that on our lives.
Yeah, most mainstream environmentalist organizations have been corrupted. Like maybe they started out with sincere people. There's a lot of subtle and some not so subtle ways where they get taken over by corporate interests. The documentary, I watch it. It's good. You know, it's like up to date. It explains like some really clear-cut cases of, no pun intended, of you know, what we're talking about. There's this whole thing called greenwashing, and you know, almost every single product has been marketed as somehow green, somehow ecological, somehow sustainable. And these advertising claims are unhinged, right? It's sustainable because we say it is. And then they don't have a way to measure this sustainability, not a good way. There are scientists, and that's their whole specialty, trying to measure all the inputs of, like, you know, to measure global warming, for example, to be able to prove like the exact and measure relationships between different inputs into the climate and stuff. And it's not an exact science, like to try and like make these causal claims. The metrics, we really don't have like a precise measurement of how all this stuff works. So to call something sustainable, it's really kind of, I mean, it's not scientific, it's not mathematical, and they've determined that their products are more marketable if they call them green or sustainable. So they just claim that it's green somehow.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like claiming some policy is good for the economy.
Yeah,
like,
you can say it, but...
Well, like, every single possible policy could be arguably good for some sort of economy in some way. And so you could say, oh, this is good for the environment. Just the most destructive thing that you could do to the environment would have some sort of benefit, or nature is somehow going to recycle something somehow. So you could argue, oh, it's good for the environment. Again, if we don't have clear standards, we don't have a clear vision of what sustainability looks like, they can make these wild claims. And
yeah, we don't even have like a bad legal standard for it, right? Because like they could say, oh, you have to meet this methodology for determining sustainability as approved by blah, right? Like they could define it in the United States to call it products. They probably don't have that, so you can just make these claims, I imagine.
And there are like laws, but they're very complex. And again, it's like this other stuff we were talking about. A complex story, it requires work to understand. And then even then, you still don't have the full story. And it's kind of frustrating to not have the complete story. So you make up this other story. Oh, this is sustainable because we say it is. Oh, now it's sustainable because whatever. And so
and tastier.
Yeah.
Yeah, Beyond Meat,
baby. A marketing ploy.
Are you a Beyond Meat supporter, Scott?
You know, I haven't tried the Beyond Meat. I've thought about it. I'm kind of skeptical. I've had a lot of like imitation meat, like tofu stuff, and you know, it takes so much energy to like make a soybean look like a hot dog. Like, is that really more sustainable? I really question it. I'm more of like a, you know, traditionalist. Like, how have people lived traditionally over time? I like to err on the side of caution, right? I'm not a doctor or an epidemiologist or whatever, but I heard about this coronavirus thing, and then people are saying, oh, it only affects old people or whatever. And I've chosen this, you know, I'm staying inside my house. I've only gone to the store a couple of times. And if the stores run out of food, I got food stored here. I'm producing food here. I could survive here for a long time. But the times that I have gone to the post office or whatever, I covered my mouth, I wore gloves, and I'd rather be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
Why'd you put coronavirus?
For sure. Oh, wait, Scott, so I wanted to let me lay out this scenario for you. And so we're trying to determine the proper level of meat consumption that would be sustainable. And I'll spell out 2 different lifestyles, and you tell me where should we aspire to fall as a society. So the first on the spectrum is everyone owns goats and knows how to butcher their own goat and raise it and eats their own meat. Or the other part of the spectrum is just like, there's a butcher in town, there's some local ranches. It's a decentralized system that doesn't require a lot of transportation, but regionally you can access a ranch and a butcher. So should everyone be goat slayers?
Dope rhyme sayers?
No, there's no monolithic culture that's appropriate for every single ecosystem on the planet.
Too true.
So there's this book. I actually got it from our public library system, and it's called In Defense of Food by Michael Pollan. And I read it not too long ago, and he analyzes a lot of these health claims, like, oh, look, it has a new chemical in it, it's reduced cholesterol, or it's sugar-free or whatever. And a lot of these new like health, like processed, like astronaut food stuff that's supposed to be better for us, then maybe it's not so good for us and whatever. The human ecology is very complex. We don't understand completely. We have a pretty good practical idea, roughly, of like health, but just the human digestive system, chemists don't completely understand exactly how the whole nutrition works, because there's so much stuff that interplays. People have different kinds of enzymes genetically, like the bacteria that's in your gut can change over time depending on what you're eating, where you are living in the world. It's so complex that there's not just like a one-size-fits-all diet for every single member of the species.
Right, Scott. So let me clarify. So I guess what I'm trying to contrast against is like it seems like we ship all this meat on boats and planes, or like we're just shipping all this meat, consuming all this petrol. Because some multinational can produce all this meat on a horrible ranch and then sell for you dirt cheap. Like, I mean, but if we can't do that, what should it look like in your estimation?
Right. So he argues, Michael Pollan argues, that the best measurement that we have for food in terms of diet, in terms of like how much portions you should have, like what food should be served together, the best measurement we have is tradition. So different cuisines have developed over time in different parts of the world, in the folk culture, the indigenous culture, and so like the proportions have been like just part of the cultural commons, part of
but there was a lot of carbs like throughout, no? And carbs are the enemy these days.
Well, a lot of tortillas,
a lot of bread.
Well, look, where would the Americas be without corn? If you look at the creation stories, the people from Mesoamerica, they said they were made out of corn.
Okay, so corn good.
No, look, there's no, so I mean, there's.
Yes,
I'm saying it's an integral part of the culture and the cuisine of for thousands of years, and it's not good or bad, but it's when it's balanced. You don't just eat corn chips and that's all. Historically, you had the corn with the beans, with the other vegetables and the other stuff. And the best measurement, despite all this chemistry and stuff, has been tradition. And so I think in terms of how do we measure sustainability, again, we don't have a good metric for that. The best measurement that we can really have, at least that I've seen, if you have more evidence, I'll evaluate it. I think it's been tradition. So you go, probably the best way people have talked about this is the permaculture movement, permaculturalism, and it's a philosophy, it's a practice, it's a design, a landscape design philosophy, where they've taken all this knowledge and synthesized it. They look at a piece of land and they say, how have people lived on this piece of land, like historically, traditionally? And they really put a lot of importance into that. Not that like we can't get new foods or new things, but we should have a really firm understanding of how people have lived in this part of the world for thousands of years, and use that as a rough standard of like what is sustainable, what is going to work, what's not going to work.
Yeah, way to not answer Dylan's question there, Scott. It's, you know, for the record.
Well, he said, what's better, everyone in the world doing this or everyone in the world doing that? And I think it's number one, a false dichotomy.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I think what he was trying to get at is like, what could there be like so I guess your answer is no, there couldn't be a one size fits all approach to like, you know, how to have people have access to protein like meat or in other things on a like uniform scale. But I think another question is also,
no one in the history of humanity, there have never been a time where everyone on the planet had the exact same diet at the same time.
No, totally. And for the record, white people had the worst diet because they had no herbs and spices, which is why they wanted to colonize and went on to go to the spices in India and in Mexico because they love our fucking chiles. Chile in your face, fool. Anyways, so no, but like on a real tip, what's changed though is people's lifestyles. Before you had to forage, you had to like, you know, run after your livestock, you had to like, I don't know, climb trees, and you've lived like human beings lived a very active lifestyle. We you know, for the most part don't live a very similar lifestyle now. So even if you could try to like look at it and you know, encapsulate how people lived at a certain time and what they ate, it wouldn't, because of the variable about how they lived, it doesn't necessarily translate that then we can, you know, integrate that into people's eating habits because we don't exercise in the same way. So I guess that's why a lot of like these fad diets have come out, the keto diets and the all, you know, because people are trying to figure out like what is the right balance of people that's, you know, Americans sitting on their fat asses, you know, and that allows them to not get diabetes, high blood pressure, and heart attack, or to deal with these ailments that are very much modern manifestations. No,
I think we're just going to have to dismantle and relinquish a bunch of the whole diabetes lifestyle.
So that means no sugar, very little salt. What is the diabetes lifestyle though? Because I mean,
well, you're saying the people want to sit and watch TV all day and eat sugar.
No.
And then they get diabetes.
Yeah, we're trying to fix that last part.
Based on what I know.
Because everything was good up to that part. Go ahead.
Human biology and culture. You know, are people happier when they're watching TV and just watching like fictional characters have meaningful moments?
They're safer and comfortable. More comfortable.
Well, I'm not a psychologist either, but I have read some of the literature. I don't think people, you know, like depression, you know, all kinds of other stress.
Yeah, product of modern society.
Like couch potatoes, however you define that, I think statistically have more health problems. And your emotion, your emotions, your body, like how you feel, it's all connected. So it's about being healthy. Health is the root of the word health is the same root of the word whole. So if you're whole, you're holistic, you're healthy, you look at everything, it's about balance. It's about taking everything that's there and balancing it. And the human body, well, it kind of survives. It doesn't thrive without physical activity. So we should have some physical activity. I don't think we're gonna like make supplements or like injections like If we're gonna like, well, I don't have to do exercise. I'm injecting this in my arm, or I take these pills or whatever. Like I think that's a losing game. I think
the problem here, Scott, is right. It is a losing game, but the problem is, I think, by and large, all of us, most of us, many of us, have succumbed to the addiction that is being comfortable, whether it's comfort foods or whether it's having the comfort of not having to go somewhere and having food or whatever delivered to you, the comfort of being able to drive somewhere as opposed to like having a horse and buggy, like, you know, some Mennonites or folks in the Midwest might have to try to like minimize their engagement with the technology. The fact of the matter is, technology is not stopping, and what's driving technology is our ability to increase our comfort zone. So in that context, then it really just seems like human beings are driven to like conform and comfort their way towards their own extinction, and they don't really care, because as long as they have their Netflix and their YouTube and their TikTok, like, and get to go to a drive-through food, like the whole world can go to hell, because up until the point where those comforts are taken away, they're still going to be okay with it, because people are surviving now, and it's not a question about whether we're surviving or not. It's a question of like, what are we surviving for? And which leads to your last point that you were mentioning about people's mental health. And perhaps, you know, that's part of the reason why, you know, people think that things can make us happy, but they can't. But they damn well will try. And we all will, right? To try to consume our way towards a utopia or to happiness or fulfillment.
Cheers to that.
Cheers, indeed. But yeah, man, like, I mean, that's, I guess that's, we could talk about the problems a lot, but I guess we could end maybe the show on perhaps some light at the end of the tunnel, or some solutions that people can have for their own selves, as far as like what they can do on an individual level to try to be happier, be more sustainable, and to fight back against the powers that be.
I mean, there's a lot of, I mean, it's a big monster, but I do make the effort to do stuff in my life. So just, you know, working with the chickens, you know, the day that the people started panic buying, like I was hearing about it and I'm like, oh, is this really gonna be like a big deal? And then, you know, I was getting low on groceries and stuff, and I went to the store, and there was the whole, there was just like cars all over, and there were no shopping carts. I'm like, where's the shopping carts? And I went into the store. It was a Smart and Final, and every single shopping cart was being used by people in the store, and it was just like packed. It was like a rock concert in there, and people were just like, you know, hoarding all this stuff, and I'm just like, you know, I'm not staying here. So I went back. I just kind of looked up into the horizon, and I just kind of told myself, it's time. And then so I went back to my bunker, and you know, it's not like the Netflix show, the Doomsday Preppers. It's not like, you know, I got baker's buckets and like hand grenades and stuff, but I do got some fruit trees and you know, acorns and stuff. And I don't know, like I went back like 2 weeks later, and then the store was full of food again. And
yeah, I mean,
whatever, but the point is I felt empowered, and just to keep some chickens, that is exercise. I feel better about myself. Doing work, you know, there was like kind of rainy and cold, so just cutting firewood. That's one of my favorite things to do, splitting firewood. It's like funner than puzzles. You should try it.
I agree.
After this virus, let's go out firewood splitting.
I'm down, bro. I'll get my my suspenders on and like my flannel. My flannel, yeah. I'll grow my beard out a little more. I'll feel real like, what's his name? That one character with the big axe.
You could get splinters though. The splinters are real.
Splinter is real.
But it's those splinters that make you appreciate when you don't get the splinters.
Boom. What doesn't kill me makes me stronger, said Nietzsche.
Yeah.
Sometimes,
Wait, chew on that.
depending, within the proper context, but
yeah,
you know,
you could be permanently debilitated and it doesn't kill you. So technically, actually, there are a lot of cases where that's not true. And actually, I could break it out into a chart.
I just watched this YouTube video today where like Romans would drink a little poison, or arsenic or whatever, just to like get their immune system like able to like deal with these things, in the case that they were poisoned to death. So that and I guess for those that have dealt in the toxicity of the world for long, we've perhaps dealt an immune system. So all smokers, all drinkers, all savage, like in the dirt kind of ruffians like myself, I think we're going to be okay. We've built up our immune system to deal with anything that the planet might throw our way, including smog and whatnot. What do you think about my theory, Scott? Is it gonna work for me?
Well, I think like excessive alcohol consumption and like smoking and stuff, I think that stuff weakens your immune system.
Yeah, it actually does.
What? That's not what I heard. I heard this report that said that nicotine is going to be tried as a COVID-19 protector. Did you read about that?
Is it some like nicotine extract that somehow is like administered in some way, or are they just giving like, people Marlboros?
They'll give them a patch and like see if that keeps the nicotine keeps COVID away.
Well, I don't know.
Try, okay. Hey, what do you got to lose, Scott? Okay.
I'm not saying tobacco doesn't have any medicinal applications. Let the scientists do it, and we can look at evidence.
We'll see what happens.
It seems like the best method.
Scott, are you currently bartering at all with your said chickens and other resources? And then follow-up question: where do you live? Because I want to know when the zombie apocalypse hits the climax to be able to run towards. You don't got to say right now, but just go ahead and private message it to me. And,
I haven't been going to markets. I haven't been going to populated areas to barter. I've done some limited bartering with my neighbors, because a lot of my neighbors have like chickens and other animals and like fruit trees and stuff. And so I've done a little bit of bartering with my neighbors. I'm in one of the last agricultural zoned places in Orange County.
We'll narrow it down.
All right, so Dylan, I gotta move there. That's the answer.
Yeah, because can we get a geolocation on that? Can you give me a lat long and maybe even elevation on that? And just send that to my email. No, but seriously, here I'll give you the hardest question of tonight's interview. Okay.
I got seeds. I got a drone. I work hard, man. Come on, don't let me die out here.
No, he's okay. So, how many of your friends who were woefully unprepared for the apocalypse will you take on before you tell everyone else to fuck off? Like, I mean, this ballpark it. Like,
yeah. Well, right now, it's all about social distancing.
Okay.
So,
okay.
I'm just trying to keep my
reaction.
People who are like unprepared and in a panic. Like, have you ever seen someone drowning?
Yeah.
Like in the water, and then someone tries to save them, then they're a danger for the like the lifeguard or whatever, because they're panicking and they drag people down and stuff. So like there's a lot of friends that I have, and they're nice enough people, maybe not making the wisest decisions in their life, not making the wisest preparations, and if they're like drowning in the water and I don't have like a life raft, I'm not gonna, why are two people gonna drown?
Hey, that was a scientific approach to that.
I think I'm doomed.
Very much ethical and moral question that you laid out there,
Scott. Because I don't think I can get ready in a by the time the society collapses.
Who needs ethos when you got logos and ethos? Damn it.
I mean, if there was like a major, I don't know, civil unrest in the city right now, and like maybe I saw it happening right now. There's like zombies or like, what are those protesters called?
The COVIDiots.
The COVIDiots. Like if I just saw them like breaking the windows and open up the window, open the economy, I'm gonna breathe on you. And like, if I saw that happening right now, like physically, what am I gonna do? I'm way deep back in the Santa Ana mountains. There's like not a whole lot I could do, really. I would like to do something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You have an underground bunker. If worst comes to worst, is what I'm hearing.
Well, honestly, I've lost all interest in your plans because I'm not gonna be there. Apparently, you told it straight to my face right now. So
you will be shot down.
People wait. I'm not gonna shoot down my friends, but if they put themselves,
I'm your friend.
If they put themselves in a situation where it's beyond my ability to help them.
Like living, like feeding myself. Like, so if I, okay. So what I'm hearing is like, if I needed food and I came to you begging for help, you would let me starve at your front doorstep.
No, I don't think we're gonna run out of food. I would share my food. Again, we got to go back to those principles of mutual aid. We got to go back to those.
I can help.
You know, we got to be able to build alternative economies. And so it's got to be based on sharing. It's got to be based on negotiating, and not Donald Trump's, what was his book? The Art of Making a Deal.
Yeah.
Where he's like, yeah, you know, if the other guy gets screwed over, that means you're a good businessman. And he like openly brags about deceiving people and stuff. And real survivalism is about building trust. Building trust. So I mean, look,
you don't trust Dylan.
I got a couple dozen eggs right here.
Yeah.
Hey,
so
right.
If you were like starving, I would share.
Okay, I understand. I just hope there.
And then ideally, depending on the situation, you know, it's like, hey, you know, we should be friends. You know, like maybe help me out with some stuff.
Yeah, I could do some JavaScript for you in the post-apocalypse.
Or something, or help me like clean out the chicken coop or something.
I have no tangible skills in a real world situation. I mean,
just help me clean out the chicken coop. Then we share the eggs.
But
there's like roving armed COVIDiots in the neighborhood, so we band together for mutual defense. You know, we build trust. We we work something out.
Yeah.
That's right.
No, we're not hoarding all the food and a bunch of people are starving and desperate. That's not stable.
True.
We're not the COVID protesters. We're friends.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense.
Together and like
you find a way.
I helped you with like those bamboo poles that one time. during the May 1st protest, man. Those shits were heavy.
Oh my god.
A lot of work, man. I'm a proven hard worker here. Take me, not Dylan. All I want to gather from this conversation.
See, there you guys go with your false dichotomies.
Yeah, we love them on It's Happening. Woo!
We're all about fallacies.
Yeah, we love fallacies. Woo!
Either this is happening or that is happening. There's no other scenarios.
Linguistic anarchy.
Wait, so, okay. Can we get, what's your feeling about the inability to have a May Day due to COVID?
Well, apparently, I was just in a May Day organizing meeting tonight. Apparently, the COVIDiots are organizing a march in the streets.
On May Day?
Yeah.
Oh, sounds like a counter protest.
So people are like staying indoors for solidarity, but I guess spiritual solidarity, moral solidarity, but physical distancing. And like it's so incoherent. Somehow, like getting people sick is like synonymous with supporting Trump or something.
Yeah,
he
told them that to liberate yourself, so they're liberating themselves by liberating their lungs to COVID-19 exposure.
Yeah, but he's also telling people like to not get sick.
Well,
it's just so incoherent and contradictory. It's just.
But he has to be consistent. Like once you're that incoherent, you have to maintain the relative amount of incoherence to remain believable to his base.
Yeah, there was I think in some cities, they're doing like caravan protests. Mm-hmm. And there have been a lot of caravan actions where people are distanced and stuff. And like when they're waving banners out their cars, like to release the like people in jails and prisons. And
we could do
detention centers and stuff.
I'll be there. Sasser Park.
A lot of that has been happening. There's some people locally in Santa Ana. They're like considering doing something like that, but there's a Zoom meeting I'm going to be involved in. We are going to do. It's actually 2 back-to-back Zoom meetings, and so. One is the first one is in English, and then the first part of the program is in English, and the second part is in Spanish.
There we go.
We're going to we're partnering with this organization called Nuestras Manos, and it's a domestic workers organization, and they usually have their meetings on Fridays, and during this whole virus, they've been having the meetings on Zoom, and May 1st coincided on a Friday. And so instead of canceling the meeting, because they're doing a lot of stuff, there's a lot of like house cleaners and domestic workers who are out of work because of the whole social distancing and stuff. Yeah. And so we're trying to provide relief for those workers. And that's part of the work. And so anyways, that is going to happen. And so I was
it's happening.
So anyways, I'm going to be supporting the campaign with the workers. And then they asked for like a brief like presentation on the history of May Day, and you know, what can we do if we're not paid properly or on time by employees? Like, how can you file a wage claim? How can you do a job action? And we're going to continue advocating for workers on Labor Day, on that day, at home. Yeah. There might be some car caravans.
Just careful, you might get Zoom bombed. You don't want to get Zoom bombed.
Well, don't you just mute them? Yeah. If there's a disruptor?
Yeah, but not before they share like pornographic pictures of black males and all sorts of like disgusting things.
You know, okay.
That's the problem, man.
Let me just say something, okay? I'm an educator, right? So we had to close the schools, right? Mm-hmm. So then I hear all these like horror stories about like fascists, like Zoom bombers, mm-hmm. and people are getting like really like cautious and stuff. And anyways, teachers are like, hey, like that's what my students were doing like the first week of class. like they're just troublemakers, not ideological troublemakers, just regular teenagers. All like the worst stuff you could imagine. That was like day one of distance education. Yeah.
Your average teenage white kid in the United States. That's like,
I mean,
fascist level probably mentality.
I mean, sharing inappropriate images.
Everybody likes to be
doing. So, all right. So the first day, the first week, you know, we just learned, oh, mute, remove.
Yeah. There's buttons.
Right. I mean, yeah.
They could make it easier.
I'm not afraid of the Zoom bombers.
Oh,
bring it on. Come at this meeting. I'm sharing the invite. I'm sharing the fucking invite to this meeting right now. Come at us. Come in here.
You're lucky this like, you know, thousands of yards away from each other is not there, because if not, ooh.
Yeah.
Take that, I'm gonna mute you.
Come at me. Yeah. You know what? I eat 2 girls, 1 cup for breakfast, bitch. I want to see it. I want to. I'm sad that you're not showing it to me. Okay, go ahead.
Oh my god. All right, let's Scott, we're like almost approaching 2 hours. We gotta bid you adieu. But this is like a testament to your very large brain and all the various things that are in there, because yeah, you're a smart man. You're very well read, and you've got a lot of opinions about a lot of things, and very factual. So you know, there's all sorts of opinions about all sorts of things that we appreciate from you every time. But yeah, it's very good to end on a good note, at least on that. People are still looking to promote workers' rights and help for people that are struggling. You know, there's been so much good work on that front when it comes to like undocumented workers and people like, you know, going out and donating and helping these people, the most vulnerable communities during this moment, to get some kind of help. At the same time, you know, giving some political education about May 1st, because you know, people got time to read books, do stuff to educate themselves, become aware about their power, right? So that's definitely something that we've worked together in various moments, us three, and you know, and people outside of this small little gathering, to try to make the world a better place in Orange County, you know, a better place for all people, especially the most disenfranchised and vulnerable. So good on you, good sir.
Nice.
I'm still a little sad that you know, neither me nor Dylan apparently will be allowed into your commune when the said apocalypse is to happen. But I'm glad to know that you're gonna be okay, Scott. You know,
you gotta have a screening. You gotta have a screening process. You can't just like
extreme
make
vetting.
Everyone off the street
vetting,
like a full member of your commune.
You're sounding very Trumpy and fascist right now. Just for the record, I just wanted to.
Historically, you know, tribal societies were very like close-knit societies, and they didn't just let anybody like show up and then just suddenly, you know, have full like membership in their group. There was a lot of you had to build trust. And like part of that was like building skills and
what's up?
You know, we like if we're like desperate and you know, if we're at that state where we're like starving, it's like plan B, C, D, E, F, G, H. It's just like all these plans that we have gone. There's been like multiple like failures. I think there's going to be a lot of intermediary stages of collapse. There's going to be a lot more second chances along the way.
It gives us some hope.
Yeah, I agree 100%. This is only like the first of a long wave of, you know, crises that we're going to have to get through as a society. We have, historically speaking, this is like you said, it's not new or something it's not expectable, but humanity has always the chance to fuck it up or to get better at the surviving game. So hopefully it is the latter, and
likely.
And yeah, not likely, but
who said that?
But you know, the Scott Celtic knot genes are looking really good for you know, to endure. Those Celtic people, they were a strong people.
The world would be a better place.
I survived an epidemic from the flu, Scott. I have genes. My people. We have the greatest genes. Like, you know, like we don't even have to inject Lysol. Like, we just eat crickets and everything's great. All right, that's enough. Oh wait, I'm gonna end this with my Scott Celtic knot
oh, come on.
Impression.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? Scott Celtic knot. Yeah. That's it. No, it was better earlier.
Needs some work, but
it needs some work.
You hit some of the inflection points.
All right. deep green survivalist, permaculturist, Celtic tribal revivalist. All right, that's it. I can't even begin to sound as cool and as like full of conviction and passion as you, man. So yeah, new songs. I know like you have out there.
Oh yeah, yeah. Plug yours. You want to plug?
Scott.
Oh yeah, I've released 5 new singles since the isolation started.
Wow,
yeah.
Productive.
So I got a new one. It just dropped this week. It's called Dairy Girls.
Hey.
You know, like the TV show Dairy Girls?
No.
You haven't seen it? Derry.
Derry.
It's on Netflix.
I haven't seen it.
You finished watching your one show, so Dairy Girls. Anyways, it takes place in Derry, which is a Celtic word for oak. Deru or Derry, and so it's a somewhat popular show. They're gonna come out with a 3rd season, I hear. But so I took that and then I like flipped it to make it Dairy Girls, like Dairy,
like Cheddar Man.
Yeah. So I made it about the excessive consumption of dairy products.
Nice. I suffer from that time to time.
Scott sent me several songs, and I haven't heard the Dairy Girls song yet, but I did hear my favorite by far, Urine Diversion.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I learned, like the thing is the hook is so catchy that I will forever now never forget like the right amount of urine versus H2O that has to go into water my flowers, because you know what? 9 parts water, 1 part urine. Water in the plants. That's perfect. Yeah.
Going full circle. Every single drop with the purpose. Working with the urine diversion.
I gotta hear that now,
dude.
Gotta get on there. What do you do? What's your SoundCloud's your best platform, or what do you?
Well,
you do YouTube?
SoundCloud, YouTube, Spotify. I'm on all the platforms.
Oh, there you go.
Damn. I'm on everything. Urine Diversion, based on a true story.
Nice. Yeah. You heard it here.
One would only hope.
Yeah.
You know, you do all that research to just like throw your urine away. That's a commodity, man. You could wash clothes with that.
What?
Everything has its place.
You didn't know that? Like ancient Romans used to wash their clothes with urine because of the ammonia that would help to clean it, but also make it smell like freaking piss.
When in Rome.
When in Rome. Yeah. Use piss like
piss everywhere. That's actually how the original phrase ended, and they just cut it short.
Yeah, that's not what I advocate, just because it's the smell.
All right, got it.
Kind of nasty, but there's probably better stuff to do.
Urine on flowers.
A lot better stuff to
on
do.
Clothes. No,
Yeah.
I mean, worst comes to worst, you could drink that ish. Like that's what I learned.
I wouldn't recommend it.
Many Tom Hanks movies, like.
But by the time you're so low on water that you're ready to drink urine, your urine is going to be so like concentrated. It's going to have so much salt and uric acid in it that it's going to take more water to process than what you're going to get out of it.
All right. Well, on that factoid.
Process that. Truth bomb.
Too many. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Thanks for coming on, Scott.
Thanks for having me.
We got to do it again soon, obviously.
It can't be this long in between shows. So once we get out of this COVID-19, we'll definitely have you back on the show. And, hopefully you can get to perform live and all these good things.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, thanks a lot, Scott Celtic Knot.
All right.
It's happening show.
Yeah.
Long time. So once again, I want to thank everybody for being on the show. Scott Celtic Knot. Thank Dylan Thompson for being his usual bearded, beautiful.
It's coming back.
Ewok self. It's been great doing the the thing with you through this crisis. And we got many more shows to go.
Yeah, making it happen. It's good to have Scott on,
Yeah.
Pick his brain.
He'll make me think and he'll make me laugh. And it's all good in the hood. Yeah. So I want to thank Edgar Silva for being an awesome audio video engineer. Iron Lion Media, Iron Lion Studios. Check him out for any podcast or live broadcasting opportunities that you would like to get going for yourself. Thank you for everybody that tuned in for the first time. Please like us, follow us, share us, comment, and tell all your friends about this awesome show with Jose Gloria and Dylan Thompson. So from Jose Gloria, Dylan Thompson, and all of us out at It's Happening family who are wishing today Claudia a very happy birthday. Woo!
Aw, that's so sweet.
Yeah. From all of us, virtual social distancing hugs. And yeah, so, but yeah, from all of us on It's Happening, we are saying
it's happening.
Lo que tú vives es vulgar, ser un esclavo sin descansar mientras que el burgués se aprovecha de tus labores. Hay que luchar para vencer este sistema capital. Hay que levantar proletarios y la guerra popular. Hay que desarrollar nuestra conciencia para podernos gobernar.
Hey yo, Scott kept the shot. Oscar, Nudo Celta, Gallo Negro Productions. One time for your mind. 2012. Yeah. Come on. Yeah. Here we go. Yo. I live in the Southwest coastal desert where Spanish explorers, invaders, and adventurers got caught on the plane with no shade and high temperatures. Got lost in vain with no gain for their expenditures. No maps of new terrain, no way to make measurements. Struck by sandstorms, they felt the earth's texture shift. Pathetically crumpled on the trail, exposed to the elements. They left their brittle skeletons upon the sediments. Their bones upon the stones was an omen for future settlements. This is a desert. Put it in perspective. Stay in the shade. Remember, water is sacred. Once again the Spanish, abandoned to their panic, got lost in a labyrinth of sandstone and granite. When monsoon flash floods washed through steep canyons, it's been war against the watershed, battlefield tactics, heavy artillery tanks, water tanks, drain pipe cannons, dams kill salmon. All options on the table. War in the trenches, occupation of the water table. Fortifications, concrete and water. War against the local flora and fauna. Habitation, evisceration of Mother Earth. To reconquer, recolonize, but not replenish the aquifer. Economists with the consciousness of active military officers. Preposterously oblivious to the obvious future consequence. Self-fulfilling prophets of hydrological apocalypse. tap the ancient water of distant strata to put out the fire of the sprawling octopus, Southern California megalopolis.
That's right, turn off the sprinklers. Recognize you bathing Colorado River water. Planet Acorn.
This is a desert. Put it in perspective. Stay in the shade. Remember, water is sacred. Yes, I live in the Southwest, the arid landscape of mowed lawns, swimming pools, the era in the landscape. Biologically colonial, in the backyard, the front yard, trying to look like 18th century British courtyards. This is a desert, put it in perspective, stay in the shade, remember water is sacred. This is a desert, put it in perspective, stay in the shade, remember water is sacred.